I believe that like as a songwriter, I guess I don't know. It's so weird to like even say that. Like I'm a songwriter. I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm just trying. I got something in here. I just want to get out. I don't know.
Yeah. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast. I'm Willis.
Hey, this is Grum, and it is April 24th in the solarium.
And I am your host, Jacob Basis. Today with us, we have return guest Dave Sandersfeld here to talk about an upcoming set of releases. Dave reached out to us about coming back on the podcast, and we were so pleased to have him back. Dave, if you could just tell us a little bit about what we have in store with new music from you.
Yeah, so new music. That's what we have. I'm excited. Nice. I just kind of plan on hopefully releasing like a string of singles throughout the year is kind of my plan. So the first one is called What Does It Mean? And that's going to be released on Friday, May 31st. And I just got the final one on a different track. So I'm just kind of picking dates, and ideally I'm going to just start releasing some singles.
Sure. Yeah. These were recorded in your home studio?
Majority of it, yes. Yep. I just pretty much record everything out of my studio, and then I work with a couple guys out of the cities for mixing and mastering.
Cool. Well, just for the nerds, what DAW do you use?
I have an Apollo Twin.
Okay.
I run a Manley Reference condenser microphone,
cool.
Warm Audio WA2A compressor, cool. And a BAE desktop pre.
And what's your audio workstation of choice?
I use Pro Tools.
Heck yeah. All right.
Yep.
There you go, nerds.
So yeah, I do a lot of tracking out of my house.
Is that what you've been working on then? Getting some of these tunes recorded and finished up?
Yeah, pretty much over the last year, I've been writing a good amount of new tracks and recording them and making progress. And I'm sitting on like 6 to 10 that I'm pretty much ready to just to finish up. So I don't know how many I'll release for sure this year. It's just I'm kind of just taking a step back from the like, I'm gonna do a whole album or EP and like it's gonna be like that. I'm just gonna kind of release them as they come and get finished, and I get excited about them.
That was kind of like my question is it part of an album, or is this just, I mean, we do music like this now. We just release songs, and then that's how artists are.
Well, and that's kind of, I feel like that's, I'm an album person. I love creating an album. I love listening to albums like from start to finish. Like I definitely am like that. And in the past I've done like 5-song EPs is kind of what I've been doing, which is kind of similar. And the nice thing about that is just like when you write a song, you get to kind of make the album a story as well from start to finish. And I love that aspect of it. Yeah. But with the way we listen to music, look at like shorts nowadays, right? Like that's the thing, right? We went from like full length albums and like, that's how you processed music. And now it's like, it's 10, 20 second videos of like, and so like, people's attention spans are a little bit shorter these days, especially as an independent artist. It's not necessarily harder to release like an EP or a full length album. It's just, it is a little, maybe it is harder. I don't know, but it's, it's here, take this. Here's 10 songs, all released today. Here you go. Is
10 shots on goal versus like trying to get it through with the one.
Yeah, it's just a
package, I guess.
Yeah, it's just kind of the approach I'm taking right now. And
cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like labels even put out like this is what's the TikTok song on the album? Like you could make your cool individualistic songs, but give us at least one, like you can take this 30 seconds and make a TikTok out of it song,
And it's not to say I'm like doing all this for like the TikTok.
No, I
reels.
I know.
It's like the other side of that coin of not doing albums. That is kind of nice, is that you actually do get a little bit more flexibility and creativity, because it's like I could release a song that sounds different than the next song totally. Where like an album, I feel like it kind of depending on the type of music you make, but kind of has to be relatively, what's the word? Like in flow.
Yeah, like cohesive.
And so like, now I can kind of, maybe the next one's going to be a little heavier. Maybe the next one's going to be like this, it doesn't.
Yeah. I was going to say, I try and listen to a lot of new music, and a lot of times I'll be listening to a new album, and, the music contained within, I'm not going to like knock it if it's just a collection of 10 songs, but I do get a little bit excited if like, I'm coming around song 4 and I'm like, oh, I really feel like this holds together as an album. But
Yeah.
it's basically like a coin flip nowadays, whether or not an album was actually kind of pieced together just like that, like you said, because I too am an album person. So whether or not it has that cohesion is really just about kind of what direction the artist wants to take in that moment, which I mean kind of like leads right into my next question is like, what is kind of like the musical goal for this part of Dave,
That's a really good question. Honestly, like I'm not even like lately, maybe it's age, getting a little bit older or something, but like I'm not necessarily in a headspace of I gotta do this to like, get to that next level and like be like this or whatever. Like I'm really just trying to get whatever's out of here out there. Like that's just like, that's all I want to do really is just like, it's like therapy, right? Like I just want to get it out of me.
I hear a very similar sentiment from like a lot of people who are musicians, because there's kind of like this whirlwind of the music industry that's like telling you like, oh, you need a TikTok song or you need like this other kind of thing going on. And then like a lot of them are just like, yeah, I want to play songs. Yeah. Like I really love like doing music.
Yeah. I mean, and we do the best we can, but like as independent artists, you're expected to wear so many hats. It's like, okay, so you gotta, learn the trait. You gotta, pay the money or whatever it is, make the album, do the band practices, do all this stuff. And then on top of it, you have to be some sort of like social media guru, or like, how do you make those perfect shorts, or like, these teases, and how do you, even just like for releases, like, I think I do an okay job and I'm trying to be better at it, but it's like, okay, you gotta set it, a month out. Then you gotta have, this video and this video and this video, and do you do a pre-save campaign? Do you do it's like all these things that are like, this is how you do this, and it's like and then that takes so much out of the fun, out of the creativity as well, because you're just so like it kind of burns you out pretty quick too.
And the next person that blows up probably won't even do any of that, and they'll do some different thing that now everyone's telling you to do that. So,
right, or they just get insanely lucky and get picked up in the right way, or like the song is that good that it speaks for itself somehow. But even that's like, feel like kind of rare these days, just so much good music out there that's just like,
well, it's interesting too if you're going from marketing an album to marketing potentially 5 individual songs. It actually adds a lot more opportunity to get caught up, or to use that as storytelling.
It's like an increase on return for the work almost, because each individual piece of content now can like live on its own rather than like every song. But that's a good point.
Well, I was thinking about discovery from the album versus individual songs, and I've almost rarely discovered an artist from an album now. Like I do think that happened in the past, but more recently, even if I'm finding a song off of an album, it was presented to me more as an individual song rather than as an album.
Yeah, so I think that's just kind of part of the sign of the times, unless you're already like a really successful artist that everybody's following,
then it's like, okay, I'm excited for the next collection of work, I suppose. So,
right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing that. No. Probably just different approaches for different times in people's careers and what they're looking for, I guess, too.
I'd even say on the album front, like I try and listen to a new album every day, and like just in the process of like finding all of that music, I go through a lot of like music review sites, and you start to notice that like it's really only like certain types of music that get like press music reviews that they like write about, and to go beyond that, like to like find more diversity, to find more deeper magazines. So it's like what people are even, writing about at that point. So like, I would kind of agree that you're coming from more of a song perspective. But what does apart from, the audience of people listening to this podcast, looking forward to these releases, is there going to be more Dave? Like, will we get performances along the way? And if so, what are those performances going to look like? I know you've had bigger and smaller bands throughout the year. So
I mean, I sure hope so. I definitely took a little step back from gigging in the last year for many reasons. I think a lot of it's just personal and transitional reasons. Not that being said, I've played a couple shows for sure, but yeah, I mean, long story short, I guess I definitely want to kind of always be playing and take some opportunities to play. So yeah, that would be great. But yeah, I love playing solo shows. But I of course really love the band stuff. The blessing and the curse of Dave is that like I do play, I write and play this stuff under my name. I've just been doing it for a while. Like I just kind of not, maybe I'll do other side projects or something at some point, but like it's the cool thing about that is that there's people that like it enough that are willing to like want to come and play with me. And so like I have that, the flexibility of like having different musicians play the music and stuff, which is really, really awesome. Sometimes it can be harder to constantly be booking because of that though too. But yeah, like this last year, January we played at Mankato. And I've been collaborating with some local Mankato people, and that's been awesome. I've been in Mankato for 5 years, and I've pretty much just been playing with like my drummer Jason Isbell for a long time. But yeah, so I had Molly singing, Molly Fisher, Braden Salisbury's on keys, Eric Zimmerman played bass for that show. He's not on any of the songs coming up yet, but yeah,
that's a pretty stacked lineup right there.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
Eric and Braden and Molly and I forgot your drummer.
Jason Worrell.
Jason Worrell. I don't know if I've met that guy.
I don't think
Shout
I
out
have
to
either.
Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Yeah. So and they're all on these songs coming up. But other than, like I said, Eric isn't right now. My bass player Adam Couch in the cities I've been playing with for a really long time is on most of these songs, and so is Scott Berman, who's a guitar player out of the cities that I've been playing with a long time. So it's kind of like it's awesome that I get to do that.
That is cool. Yeah.
So yeah. I'll to answer that story or long story, I guess I'll definitely want to keep booking and playing with musicians and
Sure.
So are all these full band songs that you're recording?
They are. Yep.
Okay. Heck yeah.
Yep. As of now, anyway. Yeah.
A little bit earlier, you said that one of the cool things about doing it in this way is that you could kind of like take different musical directions. What's like per song? What's been inspiring you a lot recently?
Ooh. That's a good question. That's a deep question. Wow. I think just I think just like the usual stuff. I hate to sound so like generic, but like just the growth you go through, in life. Your usual like changes, heartbreaks.
Maybe more internal even than like external inspiration then.
Yeah, I think a lot of my influences come from internal for sure, I would say. But yeah, just I've been going through changes and just it's what's making it come out. Does that kind of answer that?
I think that's a better answer than the one that I might have been looking for, which was I was thinking about like musical projects. Like, is there any like musical artists that you hear and you're just like, ooh, I'm gonna take a little dollop of that,
Yeah. Oh, I definitely do that a little bit. I've been listening to Jason Isbell a lot this last year. He was I'm kind of late to the party on that, I think, but he's an amazing songwriter. So yeah, I definitely like take influences from other artists for sure.
I always hear Joe too
does.
Mal going on about Jason Isbell being amazing.
Yeah.
I've yet to really dive into it, but I've heard the praises.
Yeah, I mean it might not be your style exactly, but yeah, his songwriting is incredible in my mind. I really like it. So
sure.
Yeah.
What part of the process are you at? So you mentioned a couple of these songs were done or mostly done.
Yeah.
Are you completed with the whole set, or are you still writing some, or just getting some final pieces recorded?
Well, and that's kind of one of the benefits of doing it this way is that like who knows, maybe in a couple months, like I'm gonna be like, actually maybe this one's not going on. So
Sure.
yeah, I'm completely done with 6 tracks. I guess I should back up. Not completely. I'm completely done with the recording process of 6 tracks. 2 of them are completely finished, mastered, and done.
Cool.
So I'm kind of just like going with it.
Yeah.
As time goes on and
get to
make it
finish
happen.
up the rest of them.
Where are you getting them mastered?
His name's Bruce Templeton, Microphonic Mastering.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been working with him for a while. He's really good.
Cool.
He's awesome.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So on the album then, what are you are you playing guitar and singing? Are you doing any of the other instruments, or were you working with other performers for each of those?
Yeah. So for all of these, it's definitely kind of a collaborative effort in that sense. Like I usually write the songs on guitar, sing, and then I take that to Pro Tools and I just kind of demo it out myself. And then I usually actually send it to my drummer and he throws down drums and then sends it back to me. And then I kind of build from there, bring in players. So yeah.
That's pretty cool. Kind of building back and forth, passing it off.
Yeah.
Is that similar to how you've worked in the past for recording, or is this a new process at all that you're working with this time?
It's pretty similar. I've done a few where like we do a full band recording type style. I've done some recording out of like the Hideaway in Minneapolis. And we've done like, bass guitars and drums at the same time and then kind of did some overdubs and stuff like that. So I've done a little bit of that too. This is definitely a little different that I'm kind of definitely taking on the majority of the recording, pretty much all the recording actually, like straight out of my home studio. So I guess it is a little different. Yeah.
Do you like that part? You like the getting your hands in the mud with it?
Yeah, I do. There's good and bad to that though. Like, the plus side of like going to a professional studio and paying an engineer is that it takes so much off your plate. You get to like really just be the creative songwriter, musician, and not really have to worry about so many other pieces of it. Yeah. So yeah. So, and it also kind of forces you to make decisions and like have deadlines. Because you're like, okay, I'm paying for this. We're going in. This is it. We're doing this. It's it. So the plus side of like a home studio is like I could redo these vocals 1,000,000 times this year if I want to before I send it off and I'm finished, which is awesome. But it's also you can kind of get stuck that way sometimes where you're just like, oh, if I just gotta, I could just redo this one more time. I just gotta do this one more time. So it's kind of nice to have like a sense of like this is final. Yeah. But then I don't know. Yeah. So ups and downs with it, I guess, but I've gotten better at that. I've gotten better at like not being too stuck on it, like attack that song while it's like kind of fresh and just kind of accept it when it's done. Yeah. Being ready to move past it. Yeah. What have you learned about songwriting or about self-producing through this set of songs? I think I believe that like as a songwriter, I guess, I don't know. It's so weird to like even say that. Like I'm a songwriter. I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm just trying. I got something in here I just want to get out. I don't know. Yeah. But I guess I would like to think that I'm getting better, just always getting better. Like as you should probably feel like as you progress with what you do, So these songs, like the newest song you write's always like the best, right? I don't know, but these songs feel very, I don't know. They definitely feel good, and what I needed to get out is represented pretty well, I think. Production wise is kind of the same answer. Like I've been messing around with the audio production world for a long time too. So this is, I guess I'm just only getting better and better at that as well. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's just cool. Experimenting.
How about when it comes to like instruments, like where has your guitar playing brought you since the last time that we spoke with you?
Oh, I would say the same thing. Just always developing. I would like to say it's again always getting better. I don't know. There's such a learning curve to this too. There's like something to be said about like making things more simple. Like you always like playing as much as possible, or like getting as many words into a phrase as possible isn't always like the answer. Sometimes you have to step back and like kind of reorganize that. So I feel like I'm always kind of getting better at that and progressing as a guitar player.
Yeah, I mean, I've started playing stringed instruments a little bit more since this podcast started, and it's like been one of those things with just even listening to the people who are like, I have this really amazing opportunity to talk to just like all these amazing players of instruments, and like going back and realizing what I didn't even know like during those earlier interviews. Yeah, it's just like it's continuously unfolding. So it's so interesting to have people come back on and see where they were and then where they're going, because I think sometimes from the outside, you see people on stages, and you'd be like, oh, they figured it out. They're a musician, and they're just kind of on this level. And I've never met a musician who like, you know, like think about like Joe Tugas, who was just on. He's like, I like all this Frank Zappa just like humbled me as a guitarist, like completely. You know? So I love hearing about the stages where people are at.
We're all just kind of winging it. Yeah. We you know, we'll get off the stage and be like, that was all right. And everybody's like, what do you mean? That was great. And you're just like, yeah, it was all right. Like, okay.
I'll hopefully
no,
learn something.
I feel the same way with like learning it. That's why it's so important to learn other people's music, which even I like can admit I could, you know, do more of and get better at. Like one for me was Tom York. I think I may have had this conversation with you before. But like, yeah, I mean, I learned anything from Radiohead and on guitar, and I'm like, you can do this on guitar? This is crazy. Like, so innovative. Like, and just even like chords that you're like, what? And then that translates into your music, which is, you know.
You know, that's another thing I've kind of learned, like a whole bunch of stuff in music that I assumed was something else. I was like, oh, that's a guitar. It wasn't even like aware that was a guitar making that noise.
Yeah.
Some like synth pedal, or is there an example that you can speak to?
Like a lot. There was quite a few times where I just kind of assumed that it was a synthesizer making a noise when in fact it was just a guitar,
like a violin kind of sound, but it's like a pedal of sorts.
There's a lot of cool technology out there these days.
Yeah, and guitars. Well, like learning any instrument is so endless, because like there's the learned way to do it, and then there's like the endless amount of noises, especially once you involved pedals and DAWs and all that stuff. And you almost have to do something weird to stand out, or just like really nail the like melodic part of it, because those are kind of what I see going missing. A lot of people, it's like shred as hard as you can or make some noises that no one's heard, and then just like the other side is like good old fashioned, just like well written and prepared music, I guess.
Yeah, and it all depends on, you know, everybody's different, everybody's flow is different, and the music they make is different. Like for me, I notice like when I, like the last thing you just said, when I pull back to like me and a guitar and getting a little more simple is usually when I find that like my songs come a little bit more naturally, or like maybe like naturally is not the word, maybe just like to it's an easier thing for me to process, like I guess, than like getting like sitting down with like a synthesizer or like all these like MIDI plugins and like making noise and then piecing stuff together, which is again really cool. But for me, it's just like I break it back down to like me playing guitar and finding a melody. And
I was gonna say, I think a big part of that too is I think if you're writing songs or something along that line, you really just need something that is like able to play like multiple tones. Like I started when I the first ever music I tried to write, I did almost entirely with a bass guitar and a mono synth. And it like just like, I think if I had a guitar or a ukulele or like had started with like just a piano, a lot more of that harmony would have come in naturally.
Guitar is like the hardest instrument to try to learn theory bottom up with. Like it just straight up is. Any of those multi-stringed instruments where notes happen multiple times on the neck, it's a lot to try to wrap your head up. But then there's the other side of it where you can, because of the way guitar is set up, once you learn the shapes and how things work together, you can actually cheat in ways other people can't, because they have to memorize sharps and flats and stuff. And you're like, well, this is the shape of a major scale and I can play it anywhere on my guitar. So.
Yeah. Well, the guitar and piano definitely aid in like finding a vocal melody, probably a little bit, I would think, simpler than, you know, bass and a synth. Or whatever you're playing that, you know, but I don't, you know, again, it's just, there's no right or wrong, you know, whatever your creative thing is.
It's probably more about just finding the thing that you enjoy doing enough to continue doing it.
Well, and I think another big part of it is don't put a limit to it. It's like we have all these rules for stuff, and then we have like on the other side of it is like, but don't do any of that at the same time. You have to like find a way to be in the middle. Like don't. I
can't write if I don't have my mono synth.
I mean, I should go home and play a mono synth and come up with something. You know, I mean, I don't know. There's no rules. You know.
Yeah. I find myself looking outside music a lot lately. Today I watched a a documentary about a freestyle skateboarder who was just talking about how how everyone tells him he's a terrible skateboarder and he does all the tricks wrong, but like that is specifically why he does it, because him pushing past to where everyone is like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. Eventually he's going to stumble on something that no one else is doing, but that he really likes and speaks to him. And he won't find that doing kickflips and ollies or playing skate against his friends. He's going to find that doing ridiculous stuff that half of it is just madness.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is just being authentic to yourself. Like, everybody's going to have their own opinion on anything you do, you know, let alone music, especially something that vulnerable that you create, that you put out there. It's like once that's out there, who cares? It's not, it's
almost like you want to be unsure and you want it to be like pushing the boundaries, because then you know you're at least trying something new. If you're like, oh, everyone's going to love this, it's like, well, what way are you like pushing yourself in that direction? I think that's what really spoke to me about that skateboarder today. He was like, you got to push yourself to failure and push yourself to something where everyone's like, okay, we don't really get that. And then you're like, okay, now I know where like that line is. Yeah. Yeah. And I was really inspired by that.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about these days too, is you really like that. You could take something like that and you can go on Reddit or like the internet or something, and you can shop for a community and it's out there. You know what I mean? Like whatever you created, there's going to be like some kind of audience for it. And that's
that's like the one blessing of this day and age with with that stuff. Yeah.
They're probably not like in Mankato, so
but another plus side is they don't have to be. You know, in this day, you know.
Shout out to
your audience can be bigger than Mankato. You know?
DJ Bajalvin.
DJ Bajalvin, yeah. I love those cats, dude. I've been following them more and more. Yeah, and I come from like the math rock world where there's like 5 math rock bands in Minnesota, you know? Yeah. So I'm very used to that, like having to go find little places to find your audience.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. How would you classify like yourself, like genre wise?
So that's always a fun question.
Yeah.
It's fun because you don't want to be too like non-descriptive, but you know, I mean, honestly, I'm somewhere stuck between like I kind of just always say singer-songwriter. That's just what I say, which I realize is very broad. Singer-songwriter, indie rock is kind of just how I explain it. But yeah,
I think that's great.
Yeah, that's kind of an answer. Yeah.
Is it worse if you just like confidently right from the beginning you're like singer-songwriter, indie rock?
Is it worse if I'm confident about it?
Versus the roundabout one.
Yeah.
Because is there part of it where you're like not sure, because it would maybe also tie in elements of like folk or like a country,
well, the truth is I don't have an outside perspective on what my music is. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know if I'm describing that correctly, and I also feel like I don't know, like I fall outside of the genres that I'm talking about in a sense. I don't know. Okay, that sounded bad because I don't want to again not describe it as something.
Well, you feel like you're reducing a project a little bit by having to box it in, kind of, or.
Well, there's so many there's so many bands I listen to that are like, okay, like we'll take Jason Isbell. Like, how would you describe Jason Isbell?
I don't know.
I would say like Americana singer-songwriter, I guess. Like, and that's pretty specific. And I almost wish somebody was like, oh yeah, you sound like Jason Isbell. But like, I don't get that from other people necessarily. So I don't know. It's like hard for me to like say, I guess. I just say it as like, I write songs. There's some like rock elements in there too, I guess. You know, it's singer-songwriter rock.
What's your favorite guitar pedal? Maybe we can just start.
my favorite guitar pedal.
Yeah. Like if someone was gonna steal your pedal board, and you got to grab one thing.
I would take my Boss CD3 delay pedal. Probably.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
How about you, Jacob?
Mine, actually, So if I couldn't take my multi-effects pedal that I really like, the pedal that I actually carry in my bag with me is my Digitech Digidelay.
Yeah.
Because I always use that no matter what I'm doing. If I don't have anything
Delay's
else.
so fun, man. You can't go wrong with delay.
Yeah. I loved Tape Echo is my favorite. But for me, it's boosting OD, man.
Yeah.
That's where I get all that tone shaping.
Yeah, I have a love pedal, distortion pedal that I love that thing.
I use one by Erie Audio, shout out local pedal maker, and it's called The Sound of the Forest, and it's named after Forrest Kunkel, if you know Forrest Kunkel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like his boost and his drive.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. He makes those locally?
Yeah, Eric Erie, his brother-in-law, is the one who makes it.
Sweet. Should pick one up.
Yeah, they're great. Pete Klug also uses some Erie Audio pedals.
Cool. That's awesome.
Send us an email if you hear this, Erie.
Yeah, Eric.
Yeah.
I need some more pedals.
I love that's happening in Mankato. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's cool. I want to say 3 pedal manufacturers in town. There's one guy who just like sells them to like local places. You'll see like 1 or 2 in their like used section.
Okay.
And Eric, I think you only can buy from directly though.
I always thought of trying to do something like that, but never got into it. So
I think Fetty's technically doing it too. I know he built he was showing me a distortion circuit that he made or something like that in his basement. He's building synthesizers.
Classic Fetty.
Yeah, sounds like Fetty.
Yeah, no one's surprised by that.
Cool. Well, where can people keep up with the music as it is launched into the world?
Well, circling back around, I don't know, just Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify. Most people use it, but it'll be released wherever you listen. Yeah, give me a follow on Spotify, please. Most people, it'll be released wherever you kind of listen to your music. But
cool.
Yeah, May 31st. What does it mean? I'm excited about that one. So I'm excited about all of them. But
the first of a series. Undefined series.
Do you have any performances on the horizon?
Nothing booked right now.
We might have to put something together.
Yeah, I will. More to come. But yeah, you can follow me on any of the socials for that information, as well as my website if you want to. I know most people don't just like go to websites these days, but there is a DaveSandersfeld.com out there.
Dude, I love a website. If you have a website in your bio, I will go there and I will read it and I will like ask you about it in person. So if you like wrote something when you were 14 and it's on your website, like I will confront you about it.
That's funny. That's funny you say that, because the first time I was on this podcast, one of the first things you said to me was like, "I really like your website, man. Like it's really like put together." I was like, "Wow, you looked at my website."
Oh, I didn't realize you were on here before. You must have been pre-Grum.
Yeah. I don't remember. It must have been like 2 years ago or something.
Yeah, must have been right before I joined.
Yeah, so appreciate you guys having me back on for some new music coming out in 2024.
Cool.
Yeah,
well,
thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.